A local surgeon in the middle of a war zone saving countless lives on the front lines in Artsakh. Dr. Armen Hagopjanian performed countless surgeries as bombs were going off all around him.
Without question, this was the most difficult thing that he's ever experienced in his life. To complicate matters, not only did he go over there to help, but he contracted COVID while he was there. He has since recovered. He's now back in the U.S., back in Los Angeles, and just days since his return, that very hospital where he spent his time was bombed by Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijani missiles target a civilian hospital in Artsakh. At that moment, being interviewed by Vice News was Dr. Armen Hagopjanian.
Actually, okay, all right.
This is a reality. Usually we get a little siren, so we know we need to go into the bunker. But sometimes siren doesn't work, so we get the bomb before the siren. But it's okay. We're getting used to it.
His decision to go into a war zone, he says, was actually an easy one to make once he realized just how serious the situation was.
There is no life when you cannot sleep. There is no life when you can come out from the bunker. There is no life when your kids are scared, when your wives are scared, when your mothers are scared. There's no quality of life. There's no food. There's no water. There's nothing.
Nothing but fear. Since his return, that very hospital was hit, and this time, a portion of the building severely damaged.
You should have seen the faces of all those nurses and all those middle medical personnel in the hospital that stayed. Every single one of them had either a brother, a husband, or a son at the front line.
Working under such dire conditions was beyond challenging. But Dr. Hagopjanian says they did what they could. They did what they had to.
Most of the time we had two patients at the same time in one operating room. So if you would be squirting some fluid over the wound, you were running a risk of getting some blood from one patient into the other operating field. We did not have time to care. We have to save lives.
They worked around the clock, non-stop surgeries. He lost count of how many lives he saved.
Human body has amazing ability to adjust, and we adjusted to the lack of sleep, we adjusted to the lack of food, we adjusted to the lack of water, we adjusted to the lack of sunlight.
Dr. Hagopjanian says as doctors, they suffer from PTSD.
Because no matter how hard you try to separate yourself from the patient, it was impossible not to get attached to all these 22-year-old kids whose life was completely reversed from that point on.
He says he can't believe the inhumanity, the sheer irresponsibility of those in power. He says he's in disbelief that the world continues to ignore what's happening.
Some idiots that came to power that do not care about human life. It's impossible to listen to this from the human perspective. They don't consider human lives as their own. They don't care. For them, it's just the statistics. How many lives do we need to get rid of to satisfy ambitions of Erdogan or Aliyev? You can be brave all you want, but if you stand in the middle of the field and there are 50 drones flying over your head and 20 of them blowing your head off, then there's nothing you can do. We are not fighting the war of the Titans. We're not fighting the war of good versus evil. We're fighting the Xbox wars when kids sitting somewhere 100 miles away from the field using joysticks to kill people. And you don't get a second life when you get killed.
It's a very sobering and disturbing look at what's happening half a world away. And it's really interesting because when you put faces to those statistics, you really see the human misery.
Yeah, and that's his message.
And feel it.
This is about people and lives that are lost and lives that'll never be the same again.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, Michaela.
Sorry we couldn't come to you.
No, I mean, this is the world we live in. This is reality. This affects people in the Southland. We know how many hearts are heavy about this. And Araksya, it is so powerful of you to bring these stories to us.